Could you do us a little reading from that? Just give us a taste. Is that all right? I'll hand over to you. So, you got any particular part you're gonna read from?
So what I was going to read from was actually sort of the first time that Hazel, who's the main character, goes into this world that we talked about in the book. So it's kind of 3 fireflies visit her and they take her into this kind of forest, and it's a very creepy forest with kind of scary creatures roaming around in it. So this is the first time that she goes into that forest in this.
Okay, I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much.
So this is from chapter 5 of the book. My parents used to tell me bedtime stories, the ones they were told when they were young. Mama has this story about sea witches who sail to different islands and share their magic. It's set in the Middle East, where she's from, with rocks and jinn and all sorts of magical creatures. Dad would tell me the story of Hansel and Gretel and how they had to leave their home. I guess that's because that's what happened to him. He followed a breadcrumb trail all the way to Grant. In his version of the story, the children find a lovely gingerbread home with a kindly witch who feeds them all the food they could want until they grow older and stronger. He ended his story with happily ever after, but I'm not so sure anymore that fairy tales do have happy endings. It takes me a while of shuffling through the wardrobe to realize I've arrived halfway up a tree. I recognize it at once as familiar as my bed at home, from all of those other times I've followed the fireflies, except it's been a while now. Protruding from the tree's bark are long red hairs, not quite as thick as an animal's, but soft enough to stroke. I feel a cat-like purring beneath my palms when I do, and the trunk shivers, rolling its wooden knots up and down in a wave. It's my only comfort in the firefly forest, which is what I've come to call this place. With just the moonlight to break up the gloom, I shuffle around the tree's limb-like branches to inspect my surroundings. It responds to my movements like I'm leading us in a dance. Closer up, I can see it has cuts and grazes, oozing blood instead of sap, the way my hands used to when the fireflies scratch, scratch, scratch. Come down, come down, come down, 3 silky voices request and echo. They start as a whisper but grow louder each time, making my skin break out into bumps, and the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. The hairs on the tree trunk and branches are on end too, like they feel the same way I do. The whispers flow through my bloodstream, drumming in my head, making my teeth chatter. For the first time, I peer through some leaves below, and I can see the fireflies through them, floating above wet grass. They're bigger here, the size of my hand, and I can see their beady eyes watch me, their antennae reaching. As I climb down slowly and carefully, the tree limbs aid me, lowering a little to bridge the gap, making sure I don't slip. The trees have always looked out for me, even as I collected the fruits of their labor for the fireflies. Finally, I feel my bare feet on the grass. It's cold and wet, reminding me that in spite of the trees and their loyalty to me, this ever-moving forest belongs to the fireflies. The ground rumbles gently and makes a sound like faint snoring. The tree's life source exists in its roots beneath the ground, and the fireflies have trapped them here, like me. Pluck the fruit, pluck the fruit, pluck the fruit, the fireflies demand, surrounding me now. It's a request they made many times before, years ago, and I never knew how many pieces would satisfy them. Once it was 6, 2 for each of them. But one of the worst times they wanted 444. I piled up each piece of fruit until it towered over me like a mountain. It took hours, and I scoured the entire periphery of the forest, worried I would run out of fruit to pluck and be stuck there forever. Because that's the thing. I'm never allowed to return home unless I complete the firefly's quest. And so I do. Though I've grown older since I was last here, the firefly forest is exactly the same. So it doesn't take long for me to fall into my familiar routine. I find the first apple, red and juicy, at the base of the tree I've just climbed down. It lifts up its root to help me reach it. There's a second one not far away, half hidden in the grass. Like the fireflies, the apples too are bigger here than they are in the normal world, a single leaf protruding from their stems. The third and fourth hang low on the branches, and the fifth and sixth require some climbing. As I pluck and pluck, I hear the fireflies' request for more, more, more buzzing through the air. Time here is measured in fruit, except I've never seen the fireflies eat any of it, so I don't know what they want with it. They just hover while I pick and pluck and dig and pile. I'm tired from all the traveling and emotions about everything changing. In one day, I've been to Kuwait and England and the firefly forest, and all I want is to sleep and dream, but I know I can't leave until I'm done. By the 30th piece of fruit plucked, my insides start to squirm as panic takes over and I grit my teeth, tears spilling down my face. 10 pieces of fruit later, the fireflies release me, and I do something I've never done before. I pluck one more piece of fruit for myself and hide it in the folds of my dressing gown. Perhaps if I study it later, then I can understand why they want it so much. The forest darkens, the fireflies have gone, and when I blink, there are wardrobe doors ahead, waiting for me to open them. I stumble out and place the apple on my bedside table before removing my dressing gown and crawling back into bed.